Greetings, I am Tamara Joseph, a fourth year accounting student from Fort Pierce, Florida. Today I will be presenting my external audit of Marriott International Incorporated. In this presentation, a brief overview will be provided. This brief overview will touch upon the Marriott's business, the core processes and the different risks associated with those as well, the financial assessments that were conducted on the financial statements, and recommendations to follow. Marriott International Incorporated is the top provider in the hotel industry today. They serve in many different markets, the North American full sale market, the North American limited market, and the international market. They truly are an international business where they do provide services in many different locations across the world. Marriott's mission is to enhance the life of their customers by creating and enabling unsurpassed vacation and leisure experiences through the different hotel lines that they do provide. Marriott does have many hotel brands that they do provide to the customers, reaching out from luxury like the Ritz-Carlton to select such as Residence Inn. The customer base for Marriott International Incorporated spans from the regular traveler who stays in their hotels to being a provider for hosts, hotels and resorts, franchisees, and other things alike. In Marriott's attempt to stay at the top of the hotel industry, they are strategizing to remain cost efficient and to meet the customer's demands. The strategic goals of Marriott include remaining focused with what they do currently. So providing and selling rooms for their customers and making sure to do these things that their operations are cost efficient and cost effective. Now to analyze the core processes of Marriott International Incorporated. The core processes that were analyzed were supply chain management, operations management, and consumer relations management, also known as customer service. First, we'll go into supply chain management. And supply chain management is just, in lesser terms, is the tracking of supplies, whether it's from Marriott, whether it's from the suppliers to Marriott or Marriott to the customers. This process does take into consideration how we get the supplies and how they're being used effectively. A possible risk associated with the supply chain management process deals with the high possibility of the suppliers not meeting the demands of Marriott. The demands of Marriott could be too high and their current supplier could not meet that, and that could cause a delay in their services being provided. It could stagnate the sales due to the fact that they will have to reduce the amount of rooms they have available to the consumers, or less rooms being available for different other things other than room booking that they do provide to their customers. A risk associated with the whole risk of suppliers not being able to meet the demands of Marriott could be having more than one supplier, in a sense of where they could find more of their product not just from one person but from many different sources at cost efficient ways, and also incorporating a system of making sure they're not over purchasing or unnecessarily purchasing. So with that, they could incorporate an approval practice of where in order for items to be a purchase order to be sent out, it must be authorized by the purchasing manager. The second core business process that was analyzed for Marriott International Incorporated is operations management. Operation management entail the whole planning, coordinating, and monitoring of resources to create services and products that are provided by Marriott. This this business process has a strategic objective of keeping Marriott, of helping Marriott keep their customers as their top priority and making sure that all their needs are met through the services that are provided. With the operations management core process, this process entails the whole planning, coordinating, and monitoring the resources to create services and products within Marriott. The risk that falls within the core process of operation management can touch upon corrupt practices being done in franchisees' location. This is also an inherent risk that was disclosed where franchises are partaking in corrupt practices that are allowed in certain countries. With this risk, the decrease in sales and the decrease in brand image will affect Marriott and their financial statements. So a control that could be in place to mitigate this is training at the different franchise locations to make sure that the ethical policies are being followed, and that is not just limited to the North American segment, but overall, and to protect Marriott International's brand internationally. So the third core process that was analyzed for Marriott was customer relations management, or in other words, customer service. With customer service or customer relations management, the whole task of keeping up with the customer, making sure all their needs are met while staying or even looking to stay into these locations are being met and at the highest quality possible. And with the risk associated with this process. The risk associated with this process include the shifted customer trends and customers not being satisfied. So with the shift of customer trends, Marriott may not be able to withstand the quick change that may happen with consumers liking and preferences in certain things. And then when that does happen, that could lead to bad customer reviews of customers not being satisfied with the services that Marriott does provide. And to mitigate these risks, to mitigate them, internal controls that cover and are look into the trends of consumers, look into how we serve the consumer, or how they serve the consumers with surveys and other things of that sort, to make sure proper procedures are implemented to the satisfaction of the customer in these different locations and these different services provided by Marriott. With the financial statement analysis of this audit, a horizontal and vertical trend analysis were both conducted on the balance sheet and the income statement. Also, a financial risk assessment was conducted. And with these financial statement analyses, it could be concluded that in the horizontal trend analysis of the balance sheet, many of the assets were significantly increased, were presented to be significantly increased from the prior year. This can provide a high possibility for misstatements, as in regards to these assets are companies are more likely to have these things overstated and to project them doing well. Again, with these financial statements, we do have to take into consideration the integration of Starwood that was done by Marriott International. And many of these accounts that were analyzed did associate with related party transactions that came from the acquisition with Starwood. With the horizontal analysis associated with the income statement, one account that I would like to point out for concern would be the incentive management fee that increased by 33% from 2016 to 2015. This incentive management fee is a fee that the incentive fee is a fee paid by managers for their performance. This account also does have to do with some related party transactions, and more analytical procedure should be done on this account to assess the full relation of this incentive management fee in the related party transaction, and as it relates to the 33% increase from the prior year. With the assessment of the horizontal analysis, cost reimbursements did present a concern, but as it was seen, cost reimbursements were zeroed out with the cost reimbursement expense. And even though this may seem to be levied out, it should also be looked into to make sure that this count was stated accurately, to make sure that nothing was overstated or understated in the calculation of this account, as it is an expense and a revenue, where it stands as an expense and a revenue. Now to our FSA and RSA analysis. In the FSA and RSA, to point out certain accounts that should be considered for to be looked into more, I would say, of course, accounts and notes receivable, as this account is always has a possibility of being overstated due to the fact of possible fictitious accounts being made to keep this account overstated, and then the neglect of actually placing this account at net realizable value. This could cause an increase in this could cause the company to look more profitable, an increase in sales that may not actually be there. So the concerns of accuracy and existence do play a factor in the possibility of misstatement for this account. A control that could be placed at the entity level for this account could be training and policies to conduct proper collection cycle processes. A possible control for the accounts receivable to make sure that no misstatements are to prevent misstatements would be proper training to be done in the collections department. A process control could be having only authorized personnel to add or remove accounts from this to and from this ledger. These controls will limit the tampering of this account and making sure that all things are recorded properly and effectively. Another account I would take a look into is goodwill. Goodwill does consist of judgments and estimates that could have been possibly misstated or set off of a wrong basis, and couldn't possibly neglect accuracy. So this account does pose a threat for possible misstatement and should be considered when considering accounts that are possible for misstatement. In an entity-level control that could be used to prevent such things related to goodwill could be board of directors limiting the amount of investment that the company can put towards these things, in a sense, to help mitigate that. Some accounts that should be considered as well when it comes to some liability accounts that should be taken into consideration are the liability for guest loyalty programs. The liability for guest loyalty programs has increased by 11% from this year, from last year to this year. This account should be taken into consideration due to the fact of it being a liability and companies wanting to understate it, in a sense. And with this account, because of what it is as this warranty, in a sense, companies would understate it in a sense of providing less opportunity for customers to redeem free stays at the hotel. So this account being understated would provide less of a warranty that the company would have to provide for customer redemptions of free stays or for points that they have collected through the program, through the loyalty program. And controls that could be set in place for these accounts could be to only have management be able to remove and authorize removing funds toward this account, and also independent checks on properly accounting for the usage of redemption points and free stays to make sure that this overall account is accurately valued, so that is not being understated or tampered with to make expenses and liability, well, to make this liability appear smaller than it actually is. And one last account that should be considered for in the FSA and RSA is general administrative and other expenses. Again, this account does include a related party transaction that does come from the acquisition of Starwood Hotel, but as well as it does relate to the regular transactions of Marriott. This should be considered that's where it does present a high risk for materiality as it relates to transaction volume. With this account having a high transaction volume, just different expenses could be negated in a sense of being not valued properly or not put in completely where it could be lost in the whole accounting for related party transaction and things of that sort. Other accounts that should be considered just for analytical purposes are the transactions that do hold a high consideration as it relates to related party transactions. These accounts should be watched and just to make sure that they are properly accounted for, and through the whole accounting and system process of integrating a new accounting system to a prior accounting system, and to make sure that these accounts are valued properly and making sure that nothing is overstated or understated as it relates to the account. And with that, that is all. Again, I am Tamara Joseph, a senior accounting student from Fort Pierce, Florida, and this was my risk assessment on Marriott International Incorporated.